Lily pressed her face against the transport window and watched stars blur into white lines. She had seen pictures of the Galactic Youth Academy before, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. The station floated in space like a giant silver wheel so big it had its own gravity. 12 spiral arms extended from the center, each one housing different species from across the galaxy. Lily was 14 years old and the first human child ever to attend. Dr. Amy Ross sat beside her, checking data on a tablet. She was a xenobiologist and had fought for 2 years to get Lily this spot. In the cargo hold below them, secured in a special travel cage, was Badger. He was a honey badger from Earth, officially registered as Lily's emotional support animal. Most aliens had never seen a honey badger before. Most aliens had never seen any Earth animal before. The transport docked with a soft thud. Lily grabbed her bag and followed Dr. Ross through the airlock. The Academy's main hall stretched out before them, massive and filled with species Lily had only studied in videos. There were tall blue beings with 4 arms, small green creatures that hopped on powerful legs. A group of students covered in scales chatted near a fountain. But what caught Lily's attention were the Taurians. They looked like lions that had learned to walk upright. Golden fur covered their bodies. Sharp teeth showed when they talked. Claws clicked on the metal floor as they moved. They walked with confidence, taking up space, making others move aside. One of them, a male with a red mark across his snout, stared directly at Lily. His eyes were the yellow of a hunter. His name, she would learn later, was Rax. Professor Helt met them at the registration desk. He was an insectoid with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles that translated through a device on his collar. His voice came out flat and mechanical. He welcomed Lily to the academy and handed her a data pad with her schedule. Combat training, galactic history, mathematics, and xenobiology. She would share quarters with 3 other students. Lily asked about Badger. Professor Helt waved a chitinous hand dismissively. Earth animals were allowed as emotional support, but they must stay in personal quarters except during designated exercise times. Badger would have his own small room attached to Lily's space. He could not roam the station freely. Too many species might find him disturbing. Dr. Ross helped Lily settle into her quarters. The room was small but functional. A sleeping pod, a study desk, a cleaning station, and a door that led to Badger's enclosure. They brought him up from the cargo hold in his cage. When they released him, Badger sniffed every corner of his new space, grunting softly. He was the size of a medium dog, with silver and black fur, a white stripe down his back, and small dark eyes that missed nothing. Lily knelt down and scratched behind his ears. Badger leaned into her hand. Her first day of classes started the next morning. Lily walked into galactic history and felt every eye turn toward her. The Taurians sat in the back, taking up twice as much space as they needed. The herbivore species, tall, gentle beings with long necks and soft voices, sat near the front. Lily found an empty seat in the middle. A student with purple skin and tentacles instead of hair looked at her curiously but said nothing. During lunch, Lily carried her tray to an empty table. Before she could sit, Rax appeared beside her. Up close, he was enormous. His shoulder came up to Lily's head. His sister Kiva stood behind him, along with 2 other Taurians. They were all young, probably 15 or 16 in human years, but they were already impressive predators. Rax leaned down and sniffed near Lily's face. She forced herself not to step back. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. His translator turned it into words. "Small prey creature," he said. "You smell like fear. Where are your claws? Where are your fangs?" Lily spoke carefully. "Humans are apex predators on our world. We hunt through persistence and intelligence. We use tools." The Taurians found this hilarious. Rax's laugh was deep and rumbling. Kiva covered her mouth with one pawed hand. "Pray that thinks it is a predator," Rax said. "This will be entertaining." They left her alone then, but Lily knew it was not over. She ate her lunch quickly and went back to her quarters. Badger was awake, pacing in his small room. She opened the door and let him out. He immediately went to her and pressed against her legs. Lily sat on the floor and Badger climbed into her lap, something he rarely did. He could sense her stress. That night, Lily attended combat training. It was a disaster. The class practiced defensive techniques, which meant partnering up to practice holds and escapes. Lily was paired with a herbivore student named Pell, who was still twice her size. Every movement felt clumsy. Every technique failed. A Across the room, the Taurians practiced with fluid grace their natural weapons, making them formidable even in basic drills. After class, Rax cornered her in the hallway. "You do not belong here, little prey. This academy is for real species, strong species. You should go back to your soft planet before someone mistakes you for food." Lily wanted to argue, to defend Earth and humanity, but her voice caught in her throat. Rax smiled, showing every one of his sharp teeth, then walked away. Kiva glanced back once, her expression unreadable, before following her brother. Back in her quarters, Lily told Badger everything. He listened, his small eyes focused on her face. She did not cry. She refused to cry. But she held Badger close and wondered if coming to the academy had been a terrible mistake. Outside her window, stars drifted past in silence. Somewhere out there was Earth, home, a place where she understood the rules. Here she was prey in a station full of predators, and no one seemed interested in proving otherwise. 3 days into her time at the academy, Lily learned that avoiding Rax was impossible. The station was large, but the student population used the same corridors, the same dining halls, the same recreational spaces. Everywhere she went, he seemed to appear. It started small. Rax would walk too close in the hallways, forcing Lily to press against the wall as he passed. His pack always traveled with him, 4 Taurians moving as a unit. They would laugh at private jokes while staring at her. During meals, they would sit at the table next to hers and make exaggerated sniffing sounds, claiming they could smell her fear across the room. Lily tried to ignore them. She focused on her studies, worked hard in every class, and kept to herself. But the Taurians were persistent. In mathematics class, Rax sat directly behind her. He would tap his claws on the desk, a steady clicking that made it impossible to concentrate. When the instructor asked Lily to solve a problem at the board, she got halfway through before Rax made a low growling sound. Her hand shook. She dropped the stylus. The instructor, a floating jellyfish-like being named Quell, seemed not to notice. Or perhaps Quell did notice but chose to do nothing. Lily picked up the stylus and finished the problem. Behind her, Rax's pack made sounds that the translators turned into words like weak and pathetic and prey. The herbivore students watched with sympathetic eyes but did nothing. The other predator species seemed to approve of Rax's behavior. In their cultures, establishing dominance was natural. The strong led. The weak followed. Lily was clearly weak, so she deserved her treatment. That was the logic of it. After a week, Lily went to Professor Helt's office. She explained the situation as calmly as she could. The clicking, the growling, the constant intimidation. Professor Helt listened with his multiple eyes fixed on her face. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then his translator spoke in its flat, mechanical voice. "Young predators establish hierarchy," he said. "It is normal behavior across many species. You must learn to assert yourself. Show strength. This is part of your education in galactic society," Lily tried to argue. This was not education. This was bullying. But Professor Helt dismissed her concerns. He suggested she spend more time in combat training to build confidence. He suggested she study Taurian culture to understand their communication style. He did not suggest that Rax should stop. Walking back to her quarters, Lily felt hollower than before. She passed a group of students in the recreation area. They were watching a holovid, some action drama from one of the core worlds. They looked happy, normal. Lily wondered what that felt like. The harassment escalated. During lunch one day, Lily set her tray down on a table. She turned to grab utensils from the dispenser. When she came back, her food was scattered across the floor. Rax stood nearby, cleaning his claws with exaggerated care. His sister Kiva sat at a table behind him, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. No one else said anything either. Lily cleaned up the mess and went hungry. There was not enough time to get more food before her next class. Her stomach growled through an entire lecture on quantum mechanics. Rax sat 3 rows behind her. She could feel his eyes on the back of her head. Combat training became torture. The instructor, a reptilian warrior named Sesh, believed in learning through experience. Students partnered up for sparring matches. Lily was always paired with someone much larger and stronger. She tried her best but was pinned, thrown, or disarmed within seconds every time. Sesh would shake his head and mutter about her lack of natural weapons, her soft skin, her inadequate reflexes. One day, Rax volunteered to demonstrate a technique with Lily. Sesh agreed. Before Lily could protest, Rax had her in a hold that pressed her face against the training mat. His weight on her back made it hard to breathe. He held her there longer than necessary while Sesh explained the technique to the class. When Rax finally released her, Lily's face was red and her eyes watered. The Taurians made sounds of approval. "Excellent form," Sesh said to Rax, completely missing the humiliation in his student's eyes. Lily stopped going to the dining hall. She ate nutrition bars in her quarters instead. She took longer routes to classes to avoid certain corridors. She kept her head down and spoke only when required. But still, the Taurians found ways to torment her. They would trip her in hallways, then apologize with exaggerated courtesy. They would ask her questions in class, innocent-sounding questions about human weakness and human biology, that forced her to explain exactly why humans were not as strong or fast or dangerous as other species. They would mimic her walk, her voice, her accent. Other students began to join in, seeing that tormenting the human carried no consequences. Every night, Lily returned to her quarters exhausted and miserable. Every night, Badger was waiting. He had become increasingly agitated, pacing his enclosure, making low, grunting sounds. He could smell her stress hormones. He knew something was wrong. Lily would sit on the floor and talk to him. She told him about her day, about Rax and his pack, about the instructors who did nothing, about the growing certainty that she did not belong here. Badger would press his stocky body against her and make soft chuffing sounds. Sometimes she would cry into his fur. He never judged her for it. Dr. Ross visited once a week. She could see Lily was struggling, but the bureaucracy of the academy made intervention difficult. She lodged formal complaints with the administration. She requested meetings with Rax's parents. Everything moved slowly, if it moved at all. Commander Vone, Rax's father, was an important military leader. Professor Helt was reluctant to discipline his son without overwhelming evidence. Meanwhile, Lily grew thinner. She stopped participating in optional activities. Her grades, which had been excellent, began to slip. She was disappearing into herself, becoming invisible, hoping that if she was quiet enough and small enough, maybe they would forget about her. But predators never forget about prey. Rax seemed energized by her misery. He escalated further, knocking data pads from her hands, stepping on her feet in the corridors, making threats in languages his translator did not convert so the instructors could not hear. His pack followed his lead. Even Kiva, who sometimes looked guilty, said nothing in Lily's defense. 1 month after arriving at the academy, Lily lay in her sleeping pod and stared at the ceiling. She could hear Badger moving in his enclosure. She thought about requesting a transfer. She thought about going home. She thought about how humanity had fought so hard for a place in the galactic community, and she was failing to represent them properly. Through the wall, she heard Taurian laughter. Rax's quarters were 2 doors down. He was probably celebrating another successful day of making her miserable. Lily closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep would not come. The Academy's biodome stretched across an entire section of the station, a massive enclosed space that simulated various planetary environments. Dense jungle transitioned into rocky desert, which gave way to wetlands and temperate forest. It was used for biology lessons, survival training, and general recreation. Today, all first-year students had been assigned a field exercise. They were supposed to collect samples from different zones and analyze them back in the lab. Lily had hoped to complete the assignment alone, but Professor Helt insisted everyone work in groups. She ended up tagging along with 3 herbivore students who tolerated her presence, but did not engage in conversation. They moved through the jungle zone efficiently, collecting plant samples and water specimens. Lily did her part, staying quiet, trying to be useful without drawing attention. The other students finished their collections and headed back toward the exit. Lily still needed samples from the desert zone. She told them to go ahead and she would catch up. They did not argue. Within minutes, she was alone among artificial trees and recycled air that smelled like earth soil. She made her way toward the desert transition area. The jungle thinned out. The temperature rose. Rocky terrain replaced soft ground. Lily knelt beside a cluster of crystals that grew from the sand and carefully extracted a sample. Her collection bag was almost full. 1 more specimen and she could return. That was when she heard the footsteps. Multiple sets, heavy, deliberate. Lily stood and turned. Rax emerged from behind a rock formation. Kiva was with him. So were two other Taurians from his pack. They spread out, forming a loose semicircle that blocked her path back to the jungle. Rax smiled. His teeth caught the artificial sunlight. All alone, little prey? How careless. Dangerous things live in places like this. Lily backed up slowly. Her hand moved to the emergency beacon on her belt. Every student wore one. Press it and security would respond within minutes. Her fingers found the button and pressed down. Nothing happened. She pressed again. Still nothing. Rax held up a small device. Military-grade signal jammer, he said. My father has access to interesting equipment. No one can hear you press that button. No one knows you are here. Just us. Lily's heart hammered in her chest. She tried to keep her voice steady. What do you want? Rax took a step forward. I want you to understand your place. You are prey. This academy is not for prey. Every day you stay here is an insult to real predators. I think it is time someone taught you that lesson properly. Kiva shifted uncomfortably. Rax, she said quietly. This is too far. Her brother ignored her. He moved closer. The other Taurians flanked Lily on both sides. She had nowhere to run. The desert stretched behind her, but she would never outrun them. Taurians were built for speed and endurance. Humans were built for persistence, hunting across long distances. But that meant nothing in a short chase. I am going to enjoy this, Rax said. He reached out with one massive pawed hand. Lily did the only thing she could think of. She ran, not away from the Taurians, but past them, ducking under Rax's arm and sprinting back toward the jungle. She heard roars behind her. Heavy footsteps followed. They were playing with her now, letting her run, knowing they could catch her whenever they wanted. She crashed through artificial underbrush. Branches scraped her arms. Her breath came in gasps. Behind her, the Taurians laughed. This was fun for them. Entertainment. Lily's foot caught on a root and she went down hard. Pain shot through her knee. She scrambled to get up, but Rax was already there. He grabbed her shoulder and pulled her to her feet, then shoved her backwards. Lily stumbled and fell again. The other Taurians formed a circle around her. Kiva stood at the edge, her face conflicted but her body frozen. Rax loomed over Lily. So weak, he said. So pathetic. I do not understand how your species survived long enough to reach the stars. You have no claws, no fangs, no speed, nothing. You're just soft meat waiting to be eaten. He raised his hand, claws extended. Lily did not think he would actually hurt her seriously. That would bring consequences even his father could not dismiss. But the threat was real and the fear was real and she was alone and helpless. Then something moved in the underbrush. It was small and low to the ground. Silver and black fur, a white stripe, small dark eyes that reflected no light. Badger emerged from the artificial jungle like a ghost. He must have escaped from his enclosure somehow. Must have followed Lily's scent through the station. Must have tracked her all the way here. One of the Taurians noticed him first. He pointed and laughed. Look, the prey brought her pet. How adorable. Rax turned to look. His expression was amused. Is this supposed to frighten us? Your little earth creature? He took a step toward Badger. I think I will punt it back to your quarters. Badger did not make a sound. He simply moved. One moment he was still. The next he was a blur of muscle and rage. He hit Rax's leg with jaws that could crack bone. His teeth sank in deep. Rax roared in shock and pain. He tried to shake Badger off, but the honey badger held on, thrashing his head back and forth. Blood appeared on Rax's fur. He finally kicked hard enough to dislodge Badger, sending him tumbling across the ground. But Badger was up instantly, showing absolutely no fear. He made a sound then, a deep rattling growl that seemed impossible from such a small animal. Two other Taurians moved to help their leader. Badger met them head-on. He was a fraction of their size, but he fought like something that had never learned the concept of retreat. He bit one Taurian on the foot, climbed up another's leg and clawed at his face. They howled and tried to grab him, but he was too fast, too vicious, too absolutely fearless. Rax tried to tackle Badger, but the honey badger rolled under the attack and bit his hand. More blood, more roaring. The Taurians were not just injured. They were terrified. This small creature fought like a demon. It did not care about size or strength or odds. It only cared about protecting Lily. Kiva backed away slowly, her eyes wide. She had not participated in the attack on Badger, but she made no move to help her pack either. She just watched in shock. Alarms began to sound. Security drones appeared above the tree line. Real security this time, not relying on student emergency beacons. Someone must have noticed the commotion on the biodome cameras. The drones descended, their scanners taking in the scene. Lily on the ground, bruised but not seriously injured. 3 Taurians bleeding from multiple bite wounds. 1 honey badger standing between them and the human, still growling, still ready to fight. Security personnel arrived within minutes. They were large beings in armor, carrying stun weapons. They took one look at the situation and stunned all the Taurians except Kiva, who surrendered immediately. They tried to stun Badger too, but Lily screamed at them to stop. "He was protecting me," she shouted. "He saved me." The security chief, a massive reptilian covered in natural armor plates, examined the scene carefully. He reviewed drone footage on a handheld screen. His expression changed from irritation to surprise to something like respect. He looked at Badger, still standing guard over Lily despite being vastly outnumbered, and made a low rumbling sound. "Get medical teams here now," the security chief said into his communicator, "and someone notify Professor Helt. We have a major incident." The medical bay hummed with activity. Lily sat on an examination table while a Kessian doctor, who looked like a walking stick insect with gentle hands, checked her for injuries. Minor bruises and scrapes, nothing serious. In the next room, separated by a transparent barrier, 3 Taurian juveniles were being treated for bite wounds. Dr. Amy Ross burst through the doors and immediately went to Lily. She checked her over despite the doctor's assurances, then pulled her into a hug. When she finally let go, her expression was a mixture of relief and fury. "We are getting you out of here," she said. "This ends now." But Lily was not looking at Dr. Ross. She was looking at the treatment room where a Taurian doctor examined Rax's leg. The doctor was speaking to a colleague, and although the transparent barrier muffled sound, their body language said everything. They were astonished. One of them pulled up a holographic display showing the bite pattern. They zoomed in, enhanced the image, and shook their heads in disbelief. Security Chief Grath stood nearby, reviewing footage on multiple screens. He had sent his people to retrieve Badger, who was now in a secure holding area. Not a cage or a cell, Grath had specified, just a quiet room where he could calm down. The honey badger had been furious when separated from Lily, attacking the transport container until sedation darts finally slowed him. Professor Helt arrived with Commander Vone. The Taurian commander was huge even by his species standards, his fur marked with battle scars, his bearing radiating authority. His eyes locked on the treatment room where his son was being bandaged. Then they turned to Lily. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Commander Vone broke the silence. "My son claims he was attacked by an earth creature without provocation." Dr. Ross stepped between the commander and Lily. "That is a lie, and the security footage will prove." Its security chief Grath gestured to his screens. "The footage is very clear, Commander. Your son and his pack cornered the human juvenile in an isolated area. They used a military signal jammer to block her distress beacon. They physically threatened her." The honey badger intervened in defense of its companion. "Show me," Commander Vone said. They watched the footage together. Lily saw it from an external perspective for the first time, saw herself running, falling. Rax standing over her with claws extended. Then Badger appearing like something out of legend, small but absolutely fearless. The attack was brutal and efficient. Honey badgers had evolved to fight off lions, hyenas, and leopards on Earth. 3 juvenile Taurians, no matter how dangerous, were not beyond his capability. When the footage ended, Commander Vone was quiet. His expression was unreadable. Professor Helt fidgeted with his translator device. Finally, the commander spoke. "What is that creature?" Dr. Ross pulled up information on her datapad. Mellivora capensis, honey badger, native to Earth, known for exceptional ferocity, pain tolerance, and defensive aggression. Despite their size, they regularly defend themselves against much larger predators. Thick skin provides natural armor. Powerful jaws can crack bone. Fearless temperament makes them one of the most dangerous animals relative to their size on our planet. Your planet allows juveniles to keep such creatures as companions? Commander Vone's tone was incredulous. Dr. Ross nodded. Humans have a long history of forming bonds with other predator species. We have domesticated wolves into dogs. We keep cats, which are ambush predators. Some humans even form relationships with bears, large reptiles, and big cats. The honey badger was specifically chosen for Lily because of its protective nature and emotional intelligence. In the treatment room, the Taurian doctor was explaining something to his patient. Rax looked pale under his golden fur. His leg was heavily bandaged. One of his packmates had claw marks across his snout that would scar. They had underestimated Earth creatures, and it had cost them. News of the incident spread through the academy like electricity. Within hours, every student knew what had happened. A human's companion animal, something small and seemingly harmless, had injured multiple Taurian juveniles. The story grew with each retelling. Some versions had Badger as big as a wolf. Others claimed he had venom. All agreed that Earth creatures were far more dangerous than anyone had believed. Students began researching Earth. They discovered horrifying facts. Earth was classified as a high-gravity death world. Its biodiversity included millions of species that could kill in countless ways. Venom, claws, teeth, crushing strength, parasitic infection, disease. The humans had evolved alongside all of this and somehow survived. More than survived. They had thrived and reached the stars. Someone found footage of African wild dogs hunting, of saltwater crocodiles taking down water buffalo, of polar bears which could weigh half a ton and run faster than a human, of Brazilian wandering spiders whose venom caused excruciating pain, of blue-ringed octopuses the size of a fist that carried enough toxin to kill 26 adult humans, of box jellyfish, of poison dart frogs, of every terrible thing that lived on humanity's homeworld. And then they found footage of humans interacting with these creatures, swimming with sharks, hand-feeding bears, keeping venomous snakes as pets, riding horses which were explained as 1,000-pound prey animals with powerful kicks, training dogs descended from wolves to live in their homes and protect their children, raising cats that would hunt and kill for sport. The galactic student body was simultaneously horrified and fascinated. Humans were not just persistence hunters. They were apex predators who had learned to forge alliances with other apex predators. No other species did this. Herbivores feared predators. Predators competed with predators. Only humans befriended them. In the cafeteria, conversations stopped when Lily entered. Not with mockery this time, but with wary respect. Students moved aside as she passed. Some stared openly. Others whispered behind hands and tentacles and appendages. She got her food and sat alone, as always. But the quality of the isolation had changed. Before, she had been dismissed as weak. Now she was unknown. Unknown was dangerous. Professor Helt called a mandatory assembly. Every student packed into the main auditorium. Hilt's mechanical voice echoed through the space. He addressed the incident in the biodome, explained that all parties had been interviewed, confirmed that the human juvenile had acted in self-defense, assisted by her registered companion animal. Then he did something unexpected. He invited Dr. Ross to speak about Earth and humanity. She accepted. Dr. Ross stood before hundreds of alien juveniles and told them the truth about humans. She explained persistence hunting, how early humans would chase prey for hours until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. She explained tool use, how humans compensated for physical weakness with intelligence and creativity. She explained social bonds, how humans formed packs not with their own species alone, but with any creature that showed loyalty. She showed them more footage. Humans saving beached whales. Humans rescuing animals from disasters. Humans forming unlikely friendships with wild dolphins, with ravens, with elephants. And yes, humans training and keeping dangerous predators not as slaves but as family. Some of you believe humans are prey, Dr. Ross said. Her voice was strong and clear. You believe we are weak. But weakness and strength are not about size or claws or fangs. They are about adaptability, intelligence, and the courage to face a dangerous universe with tools and allies. Humans survived a death world. We climbed to the top of our food chain not through raw power but through cooperation and persistence. We are here to learn alongside you, not to dominate or submit. We ask only for the same respect you would show any other species. The auditorium was silent when she finished. Then slowly some students began to make sounds of approval. Not all. Many predator species still looked skeptical. But the seed of understanding had been planted. That night, Commander Vone withdrew his complaint against Badger. He released a statement saying his son had dishonored himself and would face consequences within their family. Rax was confined to quarters pending an investigation. The other Taurians involved received similar restrictions. Lily was allowed to visit Badger in his holding room. He was calm now, the sedation worn off. When he saw her, He made a soft chuffing sound and pressed against her legs. She sat on the floor and held him, and for the first time in weeks she felt safe. Badger was returned to Lily's quarters under strict supervision. Security Chief Grath personally oversaw his enclosure upgrades, adding multiple redundant locks that only Lily could open with her biometric signature. The honey badger had demonstrated he could escape when motivated, so they made sure he would not need to. Lily received permission to bring him to classes under controlled conditions. He would wear a harness. She would keep him close. Any sign of aggression toward other students and the privilege would be revoked immediately. The first time Lily walked through the corridors with Badger at her side, students scattered. They pressed against walls, ducked into doorways, fled entirely. Badger ignored them all. He stayed close to Lily, his eyes forward, his posture relaxed. He was not interested in attacking anyone. He never had been. He only cared about protecting his human. Slowly, cautiously, students began to approach. Not the predators. They kept their distance, eyeing Badger with newfound respect. But some of the herbivore species, who understood fear intimately, recognized something in the honey badger's behavior. He was a protector, not a hunter. There was a difference. Pell, the herbivore student who had once been paired with Lily in combat training, worked up the courage to speak to her after class. He was nervous, his long neck twitching, but he managed to ask a question. "Does he always defend you like that?" Lily looked down at Badger, who was sniffing a wall panel with mild interest. "Yes," she said. "Honey badgers bond with their companions. If they think you are threatened, they will fight anything. Size does not matter to them. Danger does not matter. They just fight." Pell considered this. "On my world, we have creatures that sound similar. Small but fierce. We call them guardians. We respect them." He hesitated. "I should have spoken up before. When the Taurians were tormenting you, I am sorry." It was the first apology Lily had received from anyone except Dr. Ross. She did not know what to say. She settled for a simple thank you. Word of Pell's apology spread. A few other students made similar gestures, not many but enough to notice. The social landscape of the academy was shifting. Lily was no longer invisible prey. She was the human with the demon animal. That came with its own problems, but at least it was different problems. Rax remained confined to quarters for 2 weeks. When he finally emerged, he walked differently. His confidence was gone. Bandages still wrapped his leg where Badger's teeth had found meat. He avoided Lily in the corridors, would not meet her eyes. His pack had scattered. The 2 Taurians who had been injured refused to associate with him anymore. The consequences of his actions had cost him his social standing. But it was Kiva who surprised Lily most. The female Taurian approached her one evening in the recreation area. Lily tensed, ready to call Badger from where he dozed nearby. But Kiva held up both hands in a gesture of peace. Her claws were retracted. "May I speak with you?" Kiva's voice through the translator was quieter than her brother's had ever been. Lily nodded cautiously. Kiva sat, careful to keep distance between them. Badger raised his head, watching, but did not move. "I want to apologize," Kiva said. "I stood by while my brother tormented you. I knew it was wrong, but I said nothing. In Taurian culture, pack loyalty is everything. Challenging your pack leader brings shame, but watching you face my brother alone while I did nothing brings greater shame." Lily did not know how to respond. The apology seemed genuine, but trust did not come easily anymore. Kiva continued. "Your creature defeated 3 of us. That should not be possible. We are Taurians. We are bred for war. But your honey badger did not care about our strength or our teeth or our reputation. He only cared about protecting you. In our culture, we value strength above all things. I am beginning to understand that strength takes many forms. Why are you telling me this?" Lily asked. "Because you deserve to know that not all Taurians agree with what happened. Because I want to learn. Your species fascinates me. You bond with predators. You turn enemies into allies. This is not something we do." She paused. "I would like to understand how they talked for over an hour." Kiva asked questions about Earth, about human history, about the domestication of wolves and the training of birds of prey, and the strange human tendency to adopt anything that showed even the slightest affection. Lily found herself explaining concepts she had taken for granted, that humans did not see other species as competition, but as potential companions. That loyalty mattered more than hierarchy, that protecting the vulnerable was considered honorable, not weak. Other students began to gather, drawn by the unusual sight of a Taurian and a human having a civil conversation. Some listened openly. Others pretended not to while clearly eavesdropping. When Lily mentioned that humans had eradicated diseases, saved endangered species, and spent vast resources protecting animals that could not benefit them in any way, several students made sounds of disbelief. Why? Someone asked. Why waste resources on creatures that cannot help you survive? Lily thought about how to explain empathy to species that might not have a word for it. Because they matter, she said finally. Because a universe with more life is better than a universe with less. Because we can, so we should. The concept seemed to genuinely confuse several students. But others, particularly the herbivores, understood immediately. They knew what it meant to be vulnerable. They knew what it meant when someone stronger chose protection over predation. Professor Helt released a new station-wide policy the next day. All students were required to attend workshops on interspecies sensitivity. Bullying would result in immediate expulsion, regardless of the aggressor's species or social standing. Companion animals registered as emotional support were to be treated with the same respect as any student. Security would be increased in all common areas. The changes were not perfect. Some students resented them. Rax's supporters muttered about humans receiving special treatment. But the majority understood that something had shifted. The Academy could not claim to promote galactic cooperation while allowing systematic torment of its students. Combat training changed too. Instructor Sesh, after watching footage of the biodome incident multiple times, added new lessons to his curriculum. He taught about Earth martial arts, about human strategies for defeating larger opponents, about the importance of tools and tactics over raw strength. He even brought in holographic simulations of Earth predators for study. When students saw a honey badger simulation fight a simulated leopard 3 times its size and drive it away, the whispers started again. When they saw humans working with dogs to hunt, with horses to travel, with dolphins to fish, the whispers grew louder. Earth was dangerous. Humans were dangerous. Not because of claws or fangs, but because they refused to fight alone. Lily's grades improved. Without constant harassment, she could focus on learning. She discovered she was quite good at xenobiology, understanding alien life through the lens of Earth's incredible biodiversity. She started a small study group with Pell and 2 other students. Kiva asked to join. Lily said yes. Badger became something of a station celebrity. Students would stop Lily in the corridors to ask about him. Could they see him? Could they learn about honey badgers? Some brought datapads with questions about Earth animals. Lily found herself giving impromptu lectures on everything from ants to elephants. Dr. Ross watched these developments with satisfaction. She had always believed humans could integrate into galactic society. Now she had proof. Not through dominance or submission, but through demonstrating what made humanity unique. The capacity to forge bonds across species lines. The willingness to protect those bonds with everything they had. One evening, Lily received a message on her datapad. It was from Rax, short, formal. He apologized for his behavior, acknowledged he had dishonored himself and his family, made no excuses. The message ended with a single line. Your creature taught me what my father's warriors could not. Some battles cannot be won with strength alone. Lily showed the message to Badger, who was not interested in Torian apologies. He was more focused on the treat she had saved from dinner. She scratched behind his ears and smiled. Around them, the station continued its rotations through space, home to hundreds of species learning to coexist. It was not perfect. Problems remained. But for the first time since arriving, Lily felt like she belonged. 6 weeks after the biodome incident, life at the Galactic Youth Academy had settled into a new normal. Lily no longer walked the corridors in fear. Students nodded to her in passing. Some even smiled, those whose species had expressions humans could recognize. Badger remained by her side during permitted hours, a small but undeniable reminder that humans came with unexpected advantages. The study group had grown. What started with Lily, Pell, and Kiva now included 7 students from 5 different species. They met 3 times a week in one of the station's communal learning spaces. Tonight they were working on a xenobiology project, cataloging the different respiratory systems across known species. Lily found the work fascinating. Pell kept making jokes that translated poorly but made everyone laugh anyway. Kiva contributed insights from Torian military biology training. It was comfortable, normal, good. Then the alarm started. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the station. A mechanical voice echoed from every speaker. Structural failure in Section 7. All students evacuate to designated safe zones immediately. This is not a drill. The study group looked at each other in confusion. Section 7 was one of the older parts of the station, used mostly for storage and maintenance. Few students went there. They gathered their materials and joined the flow of bodies heading toward the safe zones. Evacuation procedures were drilled monthly. Everyone knew where to go. Lily was halfway to her designated zone when she heard someone shouting behind the crowd noise. She turned. A small reptilian student, maybe 12 years old, was crying and pointing back toward Section 7. Her clutchmate was trapped, she said. They had been exploring areas they were not supposed to explore. When the alarm started, they ran but got separated. Her clutchmate was still back there somewhere. The adult supervisors were trying to calm the young reptilian, telling her that emergency services would handle it, that she needed to get to safety. But Lily saw the terror in those golden eyes. She knew that look. She had felt that fear herself. She made a decision that was probably stupid. Definitely against protocol, but very human. She turned and ran back toward Section 7. Behind her, someone called her name. She did not stop. Badger, sensing her determination, stayed close. His claws clicked on the metal floor as he kept pace. Section 7 was chaos. Emergency barriers were dropping, sealing off damaged areas. Smoke filled the corridors from electrical fires. Water sprayed from ruptured pipes. Lily covered her mouth with her sleeve and pushed forward. She called out for the lost student. No response. She tried again, louder. There. A weak cry from behind a collapsed support beam. Lily climbed over debris and found him. A young reptilian, scales scraped and bleeding, pinned under a piece of fallen ceiling. He looked at her with eyes that expected death. Lily assessed the situation. The beam was too heavy for her to lift alone. She needed help. Footsteps behind her. Lily turned, ready to fight or flee, depending on who had followed. It was Kiva. The Taurian surveyed the scene quickly. Her military training showed in the efficiency of her movements. We need to lift together, she said. On 3, they positioned themselves on either side of the beam. Kiva counted down. They lifted. The beam moved, but not enough. The young reptilian whimpered. Badger circled them, agitated, wanting to help but unable to affect something so large. More footsteps. Pell arrived. His long neck ducked to fit through the damaged doorway. Behind him came 2 more students from their study group. Then 3 more Lily did not know as well. Then others. Students who had heard what was happening and chosen to help instead of seeking safety. They grabbed the beam together. 9 students, 6 species, all pulling in unison. The beam lifted. Someone grabbed the injured reptilian and pulled him free. They lowered the beam carefully and immediately started helping the young student toward the exit. The corridor groaned. More ceiling panels cracked. This section was going to collapse completely. They needed to move now. The group ran, supporting the injured student between them. Emergency barriers dropped behind them, one after another, sealing off Section 7 entirely. They made it through the last barrier with seconds to spare. In the safe zone, medical personnel immediately took charge of the injured student. He would recover fully, they said. Bruises and minor fractures, but nothing permanent. His clutchmate threw herself at him, crying in relief. Their family would be notified. Everything would be fine. Security Chief Grath arrived shortly after. He looked at the group of students who had violated every evacuation protocol and shook his armored head. You could have been killed, he said. All of you. That was reckless and foolish and exactly the kind of pack behavior I expect from humans. He paused. I am proud of you. All of you. Professor Helt was less pleased. He lectured them for 20 minutes about safety protocols and following orders, and the importance of letting professionals handle emergencies. But even his mechanical voice could not hide a note of approval. When he asked why they had done something so dangerous, Lily spoke up. Because he needed help, she said simply. Because we could help. Because leaving someone behind is not what packs do. Pell nodded. On my world, we say the herd is only as strong as its weakest member. We protect each other, Kiva added. Lily taught me that loyalty is not just to your own species. It is to those who stand beside you. Over the following days, the story spread through the academy. Not just the rescue, but the way students from different species had worked together without hesitation. The young reptilian's family sent gifts and thanks to everyone involved. Other students looked at the group with something approaching awe. Rax approached Lily one day in the corridor. He looked different now, humbler. His injured leg had healed, but he walked with a slight limp that would probably be permanent. When he spoke, his translator carried none of his old arrogance. "You went back for someone you did not know," he said. "You risked your life for a juvenile of a species you had never spoken to. This is not rational behavior." Lily shrugged. "Rationality is not everything. Sometimes you just do what is right." Rax was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. There were other students trapped in Section 7 that day, in a different corridor. My pack and I were nearby when it happened. We heard them calling for help. He looked at the floor. We went to the safe zone instead. We told ourselves professionals would handle it. But the truth is we were afraid. He met her eyes. You were afraid too. I could smell it. But you went anyway. That is courage. I am trying to learn what that means. Later that week, something unexpected happened. A group of students, including several predator species, asked Lily to teach a seminar on earth animals and human bonding practices. Professor Helt approved it as an optional cultural exchange session. Lily agreed, though she was nervous about speaking to a crowd. She set up a presentation in one of the lecture halls. Expected maybe 20 students. Over 100 showed up. They filled every seat and lined the walls. Lily stood at the front with Badger beside her and tried not to panic. She talked about domestication, about how humans had taken wolves and over thousands of years turned them into dogs, about how cats had essentially domesticated themselves because they found value in human settlements, about horses and cattle and chickens and every animal that humans had formed partnerships with. She showed footage of humans swimming with whales, training falcons, rescuing bears, bottle-feeding lion cubs whose mothers had died. The audience was captivated. Questions came rapidly. How did humans overcome their fear of predators? Through respect and understanding, Lily explained. Did all Earth predators accept humans? No, many remained wild and dangerous, which was their right. Could other species form similar bonds? Maybe if they approached it with patience and genuine care. Someone asked about honey badgers specifically. Lily knelt beside Badger and scratched his favorite spot behind his ears. He looked up at her with complete trust. Honey badgers are special, she said. They are fierce and independent. They do not submit to anyone. But if you earn their loyalty, they will defend you against anything. Size does not intimidate them. Numbers do not intimidate them. They will fight predators 10 times their weight without hesitation. She looked out at the audience. That is what humanity learned to value. Not dominance, not submission. Partnership with those who choose to stand beside us. After the seminar, students lined up to meet Badger personally. Under Lily's supervision, some were allowed to carefully touch his fur. He tolerated it with surprising patience, seeming to understand these beings meant no harm. A few students asked if they could learn more about Earth animals, if they could visit Earth someday. Lily told them humans would welcome them. The semester continued. Lily's grades were among the highest in her year. She received acceptance into an advanced xenobiology track. Her study group became a permanent fixture, their friendship transcending species boundaries. Even some of Rax's former pack members began attending their sessions, seeking to understand what they had missed. On the last day before intersession break, when students would return to their homeworlds for rest, Lily stood at the observation deck with Badger and looked out at the stars. Dr. Ross joined her. You did well, Dr. Ross said. Better than we hoped. You showed them what humanity offers the galaxy. Lily thought about her first days at the academy. The fear, the isolation, the belief that she did not belong. She thought about Rax's torment and Badger's defense and everything that had followed. She thought about the students who had run back into danger to save someone they barely knew. I did not do it alone, Lily said. Badger helped. Kiva helped. Even Rax helped in a strange way by forcing everyone to see that assumptions can be wrong. Dr. Ross smiled. That is also very human, giving credit to the pack. She looked out at the stars. Humanity spent thousands of years learning to work together, learning to forge bonds across boundaries that seemed impossible. Now we get to teach the galaxy what we learned. Lily reached down and scratched Badger's head. He made a contented sound. Somewhere in the station, students from dozens of worlds were preparing to return home with stories about the human and her fierce protector. Stories about courage and loyalty, and the strange species from Earth that turned predators into family. When intercession ended and students returned, Lily would still face challenges. There would always be those who doubted humanity's place in the galaxy. But she had proven something important. Humans belonged not because they were the strongest or fastest or most technologically advanced. They belonged because they understood something fundamental about survival in a diverse galaxy. You did not have to face the universe alone. You could build a pack. You could forge bonds. You could turn strangers into allies and allies into friends. That was humanity's gift to the stars. And it was more than enough.